At the moment, the stock market around the software is a bit crazy. When do you think that stock value will start recovering?
The political climate's a mess. The voting thing's a mess. The economy's a mess. AI is going crazy. This is such a great time to be in software. It's chaos is awesome. It's so interesting.
What do you think it is that makes frontline troops hate a product?
They're using a product already that they hate. The second you decide on the new vendor, they love that old product. It's like their best friend. They never get rid of it. They hate change. Like the top guy might be saying today, we need AI and everything. And the troops are going, no, we tried it. Here's the problems. Like, don't do that.
Since all of this SaaSpocalypse drama started, have you changed at all how you're investing in the new companies? Today we have a very special guest who has witnessed firsthand many tech disruptions in the past, Jim Milbery. He is a founding partner at ParkerGale Capital and co-host of the fantastic podcast called Private Equity Funcast. So Jim, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
At the moment, the stock market around the software is a bit crazy. You know, we still haven't recovered from the massive crash in, I think it was February. When do you think that stock value for software specifically will start recovering?
Well, so on our side, we're low middle market guys. So, our deals are founder-owned software businesses in the lower middle market. So you expand that a little bit. Right now, I think everybody would say, why do anything? Like there's no incentive right now to spend any money. That's one of the problems. So as private equity guys, I could find a great deal, amazing price, do incredibly well with it. And as investors, we might say, well, yeah, Jim, you did a good job, but you sort of got lucky, right? Well, like, is this a good time to buy something or sell something? Do we know where the bottom is? Do we know? So there's so much uncertainty going on between the political situation, the elections. Every large tech company is taking the AI event, like we always did, to lay off people. Just, they got fat over time. It's like, we'll use AI as the reason that we're getting rid of people. And you can see some of these businesses, they announce big cuts and maybe not quite as many when they figured out, okay, on the AI side, there's some theater about getting rid of people. On the AI side, they started to realize, well, maybe we just can't get rid of everybody. Like this is not working, right? So I think, 2026 is going to be a weird year. I don't think there's any way around it, right? So you got to surf it, I think, in Anastasia for 2026.
Jim, what would you say is the worst tech disruption you've ever witnessed, and how does that kind of compare to AI?
So I did a fairly large piece on the database wars from like the early 80s, which I think is a really good parallel. So just for to give you some scope here, I'm 63. I started tech in the first big disruption, right? So all the mini computers had taken over from IBM's domination. Every operating system in the world, DEX, the Primes, Alexi's, the Lion. So I started in the first one. I lived through all of them, from client server through browser through mobile. So at the end of the day, this is pretty close at the moment to the database wars, right? You've got 3 or 4 really big players in the large LLM market, right? Between Anthropic and OpenAI. You can never rule out Google because they've got amazing distribution, right? I mean, between Gmail and Google, they've got a way to get whatever they want to you. But the trick is, who are you going to bet on right now? Because if you look at the database wars through the 80s, Oracle was ahead, then Sybase, Informer said cheaper. It was one of these things where you weren't really sure what to buy. It wasn't clear that Oracle and SQL Server were kind of the winners, in the early going. I think we're right there on the AI side. That I would say this is the biggest disruption that I probably ever lived through from a development standpoint. Because, look, I make the standard joke. I can read code, but nobody lets me check in anything anymore, right? Let's be clear. But with AI, it sort of bridged the gap between syntax for senior people and code. So this is going to be the biggest disruption I think we've ever lived through. To be honest, I don't see any other. Mobile is pretty big in terms of the consumer habits. Like for the first time, every consumer, and I would put business people in the same category. We were holding BlackBerries before, but once the App Store launched and you could code in the App Store and Google releases, Android, it was pretty disruptive. We went to mobile first instead of desktop first. So that was pretty disruptive. But here it's disrupting your back office operations. It's It's disrupting your software development processes. It's disrupting your product. So I think this is going to turn out to be one of the biggest changes for tech I think we've ever lived through.
Hey guys, we're really hoping that you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are, please like, subscribe, and follow. And if you really want to know more about who we are and what we do, go to buildinggreattech.com. Now let's go back to the episode.
And what would you say is the impact on SaaS companies specifically off the back of that? What's their biggest challenge?
So the problem with SaaS, right, is it's it's funny if you're old enough. People, they fell in love with SaaS, right? And those of us who are old enough are like, well, no, I don't want SaaS. I don't want $100K a year. I want that $1 million license up front that the guy's never going to install. And I get a support for 25% for the next 10 years. It's awesome. No customer calls. Like, no, don't do that. Like that SaaS first really disrupted the enterprise license market, right? And now, but it's a distribution model and a pricing model. So this idea of, SaaS, it's software as a service. You're not installing it in your own building or office or whatever, right? I think that still stays. And I think we're getting to this hybrid, what stuff is in your own private data centers versus the cloud, public cloud. I think that's still kind of going on. So I see that as that part of SaaS is just continuing to go, right? I think we're going to be in a weird pricing era. It's, it's funny. Everybody in the software business is going to execute me after this, of course, for saying it out loud. But, half the problem with the software business has typically been ROI, right? What is the ROI on this tool? And, as software marketing people, I'm going to throw my partner Paul under the bus on this one, right? We market it like these ROI things are real, and they're often not. It's sort of fake made up numbers, right? That I think that's one of the real issues with AI, to figure out what the organization looks like. You're going to have to deal with real ROI, right? Are we really improving the process? We're going to have to deal with the fact that you get non-deterministic outcomes. If you write a piece of software that can only do A or B, you're pretty safe. But you hand it off to, it's like telling my teenage boys to take the trash out, right? It may get out, it may not get out. It may get partially out. And there's no controlling it from where I sit, right? Unless you do it yourself. So I think this whole SaaS is dead. Yeah, my partner Devin did a big piece on it. It's not. Enterprise software is not going anywhere, in my opinion, but it's changing. The way we license and price it is probably going to change. And if we have to go to outcome-based pricing, then we better know what we're doing for the first time. Instead of those ROIs being soft, I would love to get paid on outcomes, right? If I really believe in my product, I'd rather take a piece of your business, or a piece of what I'm saving you or the revenue I'm generating if I possibly could. But we haven't committed to that because I think we all knew at the end of the day, one, maybe those ROIs weren't that strong. Number two, there's this issue of, is it sustainable? That, am I doing some big burst thing and I change the organization and I can't keep these savings forever, right? So I think that's where we are.
Fascinating. You said, so for the first time, we will know what we're doing. Can you dig into that a little bit?
Yeah. So ROI is a hard thing, right? Because here's the thing: when we say we know what we're doing, we only control one piece of it, right? So I can tell you, here's my ERP software, and it makes your business much, much better, right? We've got great best business practices. You should standardize on our platform, and we got there because everybody used to do their own ERP systems by hand in the 70s and 80s. I mean, the whole client server thing was people writing their own stuff, right? And then we all panicked over Y2K, and you bought commercial products, and these things did something, and they had best practices, and we would create, as marketing people, calculations on, hey, we think you're this more efficient, or because at the end of the day, when it comes to software, I put to the wrong camera. You can only really do three things. It's now four, unfortunately. But when you're working in software, you're either generating extra revenue, you're driving costs out of the business, whether that's, you're not adding incremental costs when you add customers, or you're literally cutting costs out, or you're mitigating risk. That's kind of the three things you can do, right? And when we start calculating ROI on risk mitigation, wow, those are really soft numbers, right? Because in the end of the day, most of it's binary, right? If you get hurricane insurance, you either got hit with a hurricane or you didn't. There's no Schrodinger's cat on the hurricane. And we're in the same thing here, right? So I think for us to really, historically, people have thrown ROI around it. And why we have to throw it around as software people is we don't control what you do with the software when you get it, right? Like we build it, we train you, we customize it for you. But at the end of the day, you're using it. And if you don't use it right, or, and that could be because we screwed it up. It could be for whatever reason, we only control part of the ROI story here, right? And so that's the challenge, is those numbers are often soft. And if we have to go to outcome-based pricing, then it's going to be tougher negotiation between us and the customer, right? Because we got, first of all, we have to have attribution that it was us that did it. Number one. Number two, that we want to get paid for that risk. And if we're not going to get paid for that risk, then we're not going to do it.
And what do you think? If somebody now running a SaaS company is quite successful, but what do you think they need to focus on the next 2 years in order to survive all of this disruption with AI?
Well, it really depends. So I think it depends on how strong their core business is, right? So, if let's say you're an ERP system manufacturer, right? So you're the Oracles of the world or the SAPs of the world, right? They got two big things they got to deal with right now. The first big thing is they got big development teams. So how does all of this change the way they develop software, right? Because that's going to be an issue, right? You're trading out probably bodies for tokens. I'm not saying get rid of software developers at all. I think we're going to have more software in the world, not less software. And it's, AI has proven to be really good coding assistant for you to build this stuff. So I think, that is radically changed. The other side of it is, where do they put AI in their products? And that is the bigger challenge. One, because we can't use foundation models for that because it would be unbelievably expensive. And you can just see some user in an ad hoc report writing thing, they put in this AI just burning tokens, on behalf of their, we can't do that, right? I think we have to think, I worked with a guy named Dave Dreyfus. He wrote the Query Optimizer for Postgres, I think it was years ago, really smart guy. And his argument is we're going to have to fundamentally change the way we organize these businesses in order to get the benefits of AI. And I think that that's true. We have to rethink processes in our organization. We can't simply slap something on them, right? Like we've done in the past, browser was just client server, but with a browser, and mobile is just your desktop, but you're carrying around in your pocket. AI is not that. We don't even know what it is yet, right? I mean, it's crazy when the folks who built it, the guys and girls who built it, they actually don't know how it really works. There's math at the bottom of this that they can't solve. Like, we're relying on math that we actually can't solve. So I'm back to my ninth grade geometry, which I got a gentleman's D in, right? Like, now we're back to math.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And you mentioned that everybody's trying to, stick somewhere AI, but then on the other hand, they need to kind of realize that it's becoming very expensive really quickly. Do you feel that there is some kind of pressure? How about your portfolio? Do you guys asking your portfolio companies, like, are you looking into adding AI anywhere, or are you just kind of leaving it for them to decide?
Oh, there's no chance we would leave it for them to decide. Like, that's, I mean, if you're asking what our job is, at the end of the day, as an operating partner, right? My job is to help, be useful, or get out of the way, right? They have a day job. This is my day job. It's not that difficult, right? So part of my job is to make sure I find the resources for them if they need them. So make sure they're all connected, make sure they're doing it, that we're all agreeing that what is safe, what is safe for us to do from a risk tolerance standpoint right now. Like, in 2026, your development teams have to be using AI. If they're not, they're going to be way behind. In 2025, we're sort of more experimenting, and then we start to push them through. You've got to be using this because it's radically changing the way software is developed, and it's radically changing the way we're going to have to plan out projects. Like, we need, if you think what's disrupted Anastasija, so everybody was on Agile, right? It was like a religion, now Agile doesn't really work. It's because these pods, you can put a product management type, an engineer, a DevOps type, in a pod, and they can develop actual software, like part of the big solution. Like, it's going to radically change the way development teams are organized. And I think that there's just no way around that. And I think people that are trying to just fit AI, I mean, you should experiment with AI no matter what. I hate when people say, don't do this. Look, if you're touch it. It's changing the world. Like, whether you like it or not, we can't get rid of it. And it's going to be some things that are, I know that I have a lot of creative friends. My wife's a fine arts painter. So, anytime she thinks about a novel being scanned by an LLM, and used, she freaks out. But for software, like, okay, it's just code. So, folks, it's gotten really good at that, and we should be doing it. There's no doubt about it. We should be doing it. And that's what we're pushing portfolio companies to. They've got to have their hands on this stuff. Now, if you're not at that level, you should be using it just for experiment with marketing things, experiment with back office operations. I mean, most of the stuff we get pitched, I mean, I don't know what you guys get pitched. Every day I get somebody who says, we have a proprietary AI system that focuses on finding founders that are ready to sell. Then we have a personal reach out program. And it's like, really? I got 100 of those today. You're all .info or .shop, so I think there's such disruption here that I think we're a little bit holding on for the ride, I think. So back to the price of the models. The good news for our portfolio companies is that the models, if you look at the latest version of Cursor's composer model, I think it's 10 times cheaper than the latest frontier models from Anthropic and OpenAI. And it's real. I mean, I'm actually using it against a code base I wrote with Claude Code just to see how good it is. And it's good. I think this idea that we're going to need frontier models, maybe not. I think you're starting to see some, and you can never tell with like what goes in the media, people canceling, large data centers. Elon Musk can't really fill his data center. So he sold the Colossus One, a lot of the access to it to the Anthropic guys because they needed the compute. But inference, which is how you use AI, is way less expensive than generating the LLM models in the first place. So when we find these cheaper models, they're going to be super effective for software development. Now, when you put it in the product, there's where it's very, very challenging because using a frontier model is expensive. You can't control the reliability or the latency, right? I mean, everybody's had their, Claude's down again. It's like the early days of Twitter when got the fail whale. The fail whale's here again. I guess we had to walk away from our desk, right? We're still in that window. So, that's where I think a lot of our portfolio companies, easy to use it for marketing operations and, analyzing RFPs. I mean, it does a lot of great text processing. Using it for software development is sort of a real key. Putting it in the products, you have to be careful. We have to control latency. We have to control cost. And just throwing AI into a software product doesn't make it better. And I would argue that we have customers of all our portfolio companies who are like not so excited about having AI in products that we release. Like let's move slowly, right? So I think that benefits both of us from putting it in the product side. I think inside the shop, inside your four walls, I think you should go as hog wild as you can. But once you're putting it out in the wild, you want to protect your customers from these non-deterministic outcomes. So I think crawl, walk, run on that side of it for sure.
And what's your take on? There's like a line of thinking around potentially SaaS platforms becoming completely headless. What's your take on that?
So that's really interesting. So I have a really good friend in New York, Dr. Leah Reich. She's a specialist in user interaction. Terrific. She knows. I've gotten more about user interaction design than I probably ever known. Plus, I grew up I became a software developer in the 70s. So command line is all you ever need, folks. This GUI stuff. Yeah. I think it's radically disrupting. So for two reasons. One is, what is the UI for a particular task, right? Is it a structured UI or is it the equivalent of a text box? Like we don't know yet, right? That's one. I think it's a huge thing. We just don't know what it's going to look like. And number two, if you really can generate and manage a lot of custom code, it starts to allow for a heavy customization. That means you might have more ERP. We might be back to the era of I don't have to make my business fit your product. I can mostly make your product fit my business, right? Now, unfortunately, I'm going to use a metaphor here, and you two are both too young to know what this is. But my mother, who did sewing, Singer sewing machine, produced patterns, dress patterns, and clothing patterns, and you bought the pattern to use with your sewing machine, right? In some ways, I think that's what we're going to be doing. We're buying patterns. We're going to buy markdown patterns of a module, and and we can use any AI tool to implement that, right? So I think people can start to say, hey, I may want to use that general ledger system with that. I think it's going to allow for a lot more mix and match, which of course, my 9-year-old who's a ballet dancer, he could care less what colors he wears. He'll wear whatever he wants, right? So he comes out and you're like, well, what are you wearing, child? Like I've never seen like that in my life. We're going to do the same thing in AI because if you could generate interfaces, So I think Leah's argument is we don't know yet. Like we have to start interacting. Like where does it make sense to talk to a computer, right? How many times have you used your phone to do speech, text to speech dictation, and it sort of works now, but how many years did it not work? How many years were you standing in the airport screaming into it? Like, I said, dance, that it's kind of getting there, right? And I think the same thing is going to happen on where does it make sense to have AI in these products, right? But think about it the other way. If it's really good at generating this low-level code, all these machine systems out there, have you ever tried to generate CNC code for like a GE cutting machines or lasers? Ooh, that is That is not fun code. It's powerful, but not fun code. When you can start getting machines to generate that stuff, can we automate manufacturing more? And again, this is not my belief is not getting rid of people. It's actually hiring more people, but think of the stuff we can get out of it. Like it might be crazy stuff we can get done. Plus, it might actually force the United States into being alternative forms of energy. Like, hey, it's past the year 2000, America. Like wind, solar, nuclear, they all work. Surprisingly. So I think that's where we are. That's why I'm like, wow, it's an incredible time. Like, it's probably going to be the last big tech disruption they let me work in. I'm sure they'll put me out to pasture, after this one. At some point, I probably will, right? It'll be like Joe Pesci. I think I'm going to some meeting to be made partner emeritus, and they'll just bury me in a hole or something, which is probably good. But this is the biggest one. This is the most exciting one. So.
And Jim, I wanted to really ask you this because obviously in the past, private equity were all about like financial optimization of the companies and then selling it off. Then recently it's more about support, like operationally. What do you think, like with all this AI going on, what is the next biggest lever that you can have in your value creation sort of time?
So I was waiting for that word. This is pretty good. It only took 27 minutes for somebody to say value creation. So in my value creation in private equity, guys, it's way overblown. So let's stop for a second in terms of what is real value. Now, the Vistas of the world, yes, if you're buying a $2 billion software company and taking it private, I am sure there are standardization of insurance and cutting duplicate costs and I'm sure you can cut costs out of those businesses. That's not my market, right? At the low and middle market, we're buying profitable small size companies, or take any sort of small size companies in whatever marketplace. It's a different world than the big guys. So Devin and I always believe that operators and partners, deal partners, should be pari passu, right? The same. So we started the firm together with the same economics, everything, right? What is my job as an operating partner? My job is to translate, right? Is to translate, to the board, to translate to the management team, to translate to the founders. I'm explaining technical stuff in a business way. Let's not Paul and I aren't walking in, let me show you how it's done. That's not how it works, right? And if you think that's how it works, good luck to you, right? Our job is to be helpful and not get in the way, to translate if we need to translate. So my standard joke is, you'll have a founder who trades in their Mercedes every year, but wonders why a 10-year-old server should be replaced, right? It's like, did you hear yourself say that? Servers wear out too. You trade your car in when it's out of gas. Like, we have to replace the server. That's part of what I have to do. It's part of trading around. Portfolio companies are at different stages of with any technology of adopting it, and part of it is sharing that stuff around. So I think a couple things. I think we got a little too far on operating partner, and we've done a lot of conversations about this in the Fundcast. That the operating partner thing started out as a CEO who did really great for a deal for you. They sat around the table, and mostly they were kind of keeping you on ice when they found a good deal. Then they put you right in that deal, right? So the poor operating partner here, he had to go once a quarter write some analysis, some portfolio company, whatever. But they're kind of sitting around and sitting on boards. And then we got this crazy thing where we're going to do all the work for you. No, we're not. And if you think that I can walk into any software company and know more than they do about their business, no, I won't. Now, what do I know more about? I know more about how other size businesses are doing it. And I can suggest that there's other ways we've seen things. But our job is to be helpful and get out of the way, right? And understand the reality of it's like any other business, right? That there's going to be some CTOs and CEOs and heads of sales that we get along great with, and some we don't. Like it's also, that's the one weird problem. When you hire a consultant, you get to pick them. When your private equity firm buys you, the operating partner is the operating partner, right? Like you don't get to trade those people out, right? So I think what we've learned is be helpful, but and help translate. But any kind of, if you think you know more about their business, you do not. And so the best thing to do is make sure that our job is to make sure we're keeping everybody in the rails. So I'm a software guy. So, part of it is, hey, if we're going to rewrite something, maybe I'm not wanting to rewrite it in the latest and greatest version of Rust where I can't find any people, that can manage that application after. But now I'm sitting in a situation where, well, there's some really good AI models that can manage that Rust for me. Like, wow, this is even disrupting our mode of like, what do I know? Like, what is my expertise? This is one where we have to stay ahead of them on this. So, I think the whole operating partner genius thing is so overrated. Let's just not they all love that. We got our playbook, whatever, folks. Let's not overblow that, right? In my opinion,
you're not doing yourself a disservice there.
I would say as a group, operating partners have probably a bad reputation, right? From the sense of, hey, if we go in guns blazing, right? Because the company can't fire me, right? They can't, right? They can ask the deal or the board. They can say, hey, I don't like working with Jim, whatever. But it's not like I'm an employee that they could fire. Part of the ownership group that owns the company, right? So that puts them in a really difficult situation. And so what Paul and I have found is it's easier to say, hey, if you need help, great. If you don't, now, if where it gets ugly is not called value creation. It's like, look, in today's world, if we've got portfolio companies that don't think that AI should be used in software development, well, that's something I'm going to push. Is that value creation? No, I got to fight that fight. It's like, hey guys, we're seeing it 3 or 4 other portfolio companies that you're all interacting with. I think it's time. So we have to do some of those things. And those are, again, that's why you keep me on board, right? Devin probably keeps me on board for my looks. But he said laughingly, what is it? My mom said, you got a great voice for radio. You got a face for radio. So for us, I got to stay ahead of this. They have their day jobs. This is my day job, right? So my job is to stay ahead of don't go down this path. Don't go down that path. This model is probably not going to be a worker for you. It's I have to know the stuff that they don't know yet because they got a day job that I don't have.
Yeah. Talk to me a bit about the customer for SaaS. How important is it for companies to be customer focused right now?
So I love customer focused because every time we have a downturn in the economy, everybody says we're going to be customer focused. You wouldn't have a problem if you were focused on the customer from the beginning. That's why they're called the customer, right? Here's where I think it's going to be awesome. So product management is going to be a key thing in software because of AI, right? We can now produce software much faster. So let's make sure we're producing what people want. I think we got now tools that we can put in the hands of product managers that can engage with customers. The biggest weakness we see in most, mid-market software businesses is product managers are not spending enough time with the customers. If you spend time with them, they will tell you what's working and not working. Now, that doesn't mean that the customer is always right? The software company, the SaaS company's job is to do the task that the user is using their software better than they would do it themselves, right? That's our job. That's why you buy a software product, right? Why do you buy PowerPoint? Well, I hate Microsoft Office. It's probably legally make you do it in this country, but whatever. You buy the tool using the tool, right? That's what they're doing, right? So at the end of the day, that ends up being, I think, the biggest challenge with these smaller companies is this issue of both the resources they have to do the stuff that they need to do, right, at the size. In today's world, they have to be using, they have to be sort of automated this stuff. And I'm not finding it. We don't see anybody fighting it. I mean, you get some, other trends in the past. I think people jumped on things like mobile pretty quickly. That was probably more disappointing that we all produce mobile stuff and not enough people were using it right away. I mean, I think we've grown into it, definitely grown into it, but I think that's going to be one of the issues on the AI front.
Interesting.
And on the sort of portco levels, on your portfolio companies levels, what do you think they most of the time, because you mentioned there's not enough people, or they're limited on resources, but in terms of the concept of understanding the customer or getting customer insights, what do you think is not there?
So what hasn't been there for us has been, I'll say it in terms of lower middle market for us, what we've seen, and there's some other root causes. For us, oftentimes, we're buying from a founder who started the business in their 40s or 50s, right? And by the time he or she's selling to us, it's because the kids don't want to run it, or they don't have a CEO to run. So they start engaging with private equity to get somebody to buy the business for them from them. That makes sense. So they're not these are not growth equity deals with some hotshot technology founder. They know the business. They've come from the industry really well. The problem is they think they're the best product manager and salesperson the company ever had, right? Because they probably developed the first product themselves. They acted as the product manager. They probably hired a couple of developers, right? So what's happened is product management isn't a strong function at those companies because the founder did it themselves and they knew the industry. And in most cases, our founders, everybody in that industry knows them. You go to a trade show and they're like, hey, Carol, hey, Phil, it's one of those, right? So that becomes the huge challenge, that when we bring in, and I don't want to say professional management because it's so gross, works. Like all the people at these companies are good too. They've spent years, but we'll have different techniques we bring in. And one of them, product management, is you get to engage with the customer, talk to the customers, right? AI is amazing to go against your ticketing system, right? So if you're, I think legally in the United States, everybody also has to be on Jira. It's like the law. You need a driver's license,
It's like
a
Microsoft.
card, and you have to have a Jira ticket. My wife puts Jira tickets in for me to empty the dishwasher. So you can analyze the Jira tickets, and you get incredible insights in terms of, we're seeing this problem constantly. Maybe if we added this feature, it would eliminate the call. All sorts of great stuff there, but that's still talk to the customer, and that's what we're pushing is. Now that product managers can actually develop stuff, use DevZero or Vercel or something, they can develop real high fidelity, prototypes for customers to say, look, this is what we're thinking of doing. This is how you're thinking this is going to work. And that's incredibly useful that by the time engineering gets it, they can build it out. So our push is in this AI world, it's like, talk to the customer. Like that is the solution to the problem, is talking to the customer. And it's the hardest thing to get people to do.
And do you think in PE space there's actually time to do that? Because sometimes it depends on the size, obviously, but some PE companies, it feels like it's so timed, like everything is about doing as quickly as possible. And, like talking to your customers might take more time, analysis of that, implementation of things they said. So you feel sometimes when you speak to PE partners, that doesn't feel like there is time for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, it's, I don't have time to train for the Olympics, but I want to be in the Olympics. Okay. You don't have time to talk to your customers? Well, awesome. Look, I think AI makes that so much easier, right? If you just do a discovery call with a customer, you don't even have to take notes anymore, right? I think people are reluctant to be recorded, whatever, to be able to say to a customer, look, I'm going to focus on you in this Zoom call, right? And I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to use my AI note taker so that I'm not writing stuff down. I'm missing your key points every time you're talking, right? And I'm going to share this back with you. Like, look, we're talking to the customers because we want this software to be better and more useful for you, right? And the only way to do that is to talk to customers. And it's surprising. Leah Reich's a guru in this. It's funny. She has people from other companies, like users from companies she's no longer at, that still call her to just talk about the products they're working on, right? I mean, I think that's one of the key, it's one of the key things. Like you have to literally understand what your customers want out of the solutions, and that's even just not just how they use the products today, but what else should it fit with? Like now we're in this world of AI, we can connect a lot of things together. Like, all right, what is the main user interface for any customers? I mean, we're struggling with that ourselves in a PE firm, right? Because PE firms have some kind of system they use to communicate with their investors, like Intralinks or something, bulletin board thing. You got a CRM that's probably poorly used. You got a file server that's probably the biggest thing in your company, and then you've got some kind of email calendar system, Office 365, Gmail, whatever, right? QuickBooks, or we're a NetSuite customer, and we happen to use Basecamp, but it's not a lot of. But what is at the end of the day? What am I looking for as a PE guy? What is my database as a PE guy? My database is, if I see a deal book, I would love to be able to figure out if anybody in that deal book or anybody in that market, we have any touch points whatsoever, right? So at the end of the day, this is where AI will be useful, is to dump all this crap into one giant, RAG server or MCP and have all of our LinkedIn data and all that place to say, hey, looks like the CEO of this is Karen Jones. Have we ever run into anybody who knows, a bank or anybody? Do we know anything about this industry that is it worth looking at for us, right? That I think it's a huge disruption for us too. And we have just a finite number of finite number of systems of record in a private equity firm, but it's going to disrupt what we do too, for sure.
You said on one of your podcasts recently around it's really not just the value of talking to your customers, but to actually kind of dig in more and ask better questions. Can you dig into that a little bit? What do you define as better questions?
So the first thing is, it's always good to ask like these open-ended questions from a strategy standpoint with your customers, but that sometimes works when you're talking to the manager. When you're talking to the frontline troops that are using your product every day, like literally this, it's a different conversation, right? For us, we believe the first thing is you got to have some observability in your product. So whether using Observify or Datadog or something, we have to Pendo. You've got to be monitoring the application, right? That gives you the talking points. It's like, hey, we added this panel in to do X, Y, Z, and it doesn't seem like anybody at your company is using it. What are we missing? Like, do we not train you on it, or you use it? You're like, yeah, it's not valuable. Like that's literally if you've got the ticket data from the customer and you've got analytics from the apps they run, you have all you need to ask them the questions, right? Because they want to answer it for you. But just try and get these high level marketing, like, is it, do you like it? This useless. What's working and not working for you. And that's oftentimes the manager at companies you sell to, they're visionary. And so they believe the story you're telling, but you also have to make the frontline troops not hate your product. Like, it's got to deliver. It's absolutely got to deliver.
Yeah. And what do you think it is that makes frontline troops hate a product?
So first things happen is this in enterprise software. As soon as they're using a product already that they hate, maybe it's homegrown or from some other vendor. The second you decide on the new vendor, they love that old product. It's like their best friend. They never want to get rid of it. They hate change, right? But to be fair, so let's say I'm a worker, a desk worker at some place, like change. I don't want change. I know how to do this job. I know how the software works. Like, you're foisting change on me, and I'm being paid whatever I'm being paid. I'm just a cog in this machine, and that's not fun, right? It's if you make it so that the software is useful and makes their day better and solves the problems better, yes, then I think that's the right level to engage in. But there's always that disconnect between the frontline troops who, you think something's annoying, right? Like an extra mouse click, and they're processing 1 million records a day. Man, that extra mouse click is just eating them alive, as software guys. Or it's so fun to work on a new feature, but not performance. And this screen takes 5 seconds to load, and this poor person's doing 1,000 invoices a day, and they're just sitting there every time I open that first one. Like, of course they would hate you, right? Like, the job is you're throwing rocks into their job on a daily basis. So understanding that disconnect between the visionary boss of some of these companies and the frontline troops is a tough one. It really is.
Yeah,
because the frontline manager might be saying today, like the top guy might be saying today, we need AI and everything, and the troops are going, no, my boss, no, we tried it. Here's the problems. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a challenge with the kind of traditional customer focused insights gathering, where they might just go straight to the bill payer, and they're not really doing the kind of deeper stuff where you're talking to the folks on the ground that are in there day in, day out, all the way through the day, right?
Yeah. Well, especially in large software sales where if you're selling to like a Fortune 1000, they've got a purchasing department. And that purchasing manager, they're incentivized to have fewer vendors and get the best price they can, right? So they could care less that you beat out vendor XYZ in the RFP. If vendor XYZ, they feel like it's got a better price, they're going to try and push that through, right? So you've done a ton of work to make all the users happy, and they're just going to go against you. And again, I understand totally why that's the case, right? But it's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. It's a challenge to larger organizations. And especially with small companies, like, if you have small software companies selling to large organizations, man, they can eat you alive just from the resource standpoint. Yeah, because they get tons of people they can throw on this project. We don't.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you also, Jim, because sometimes I think companies also don't see how directly optimizing of the product or the customer experience or happiness of the customers, how it will directly impact the sort of metrics that private equity really care about. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So we are certainly a stats-driven business, right? Totally. Look, there are lots of different ways to do what people do in PE. We're in a lower middle market, guys, because this is where we like to be. Like, Devin and I, we're not big financial engineering types. It doesn't interest me. Right. So it interests me to see the tech and stuff. So this is why we're at the level we're at. The larger companies you go, you can't afford to be involved. Right. So how do you make money in PE? Well, you grow revenues by keeping a good line on gross margin, or maybe you've got some incredible business that it's just about cutting costs or limiting what you have to add as you grow. So you're putting efficiency in so that you can grow revenues, but you're not growing your cost base, or you're cutting risks out of a business. I mean, those are the things that we're doing on a daily business in these software businesses in order to in order to make the business profitable. Now, the other way, of course, is it's financial engineering. You add a lot of debt to it. And again, this whole issue of like, oh yeah, debt puts the business out of, no. Just saying, if it prints a lot of cash, you can use debt. It's more efficient to do it. And that's a way to make money, right? Because you're using more debt than equity in the deal. That's much more financial engineering than we typically do. It's just not usable at the low end of the marketplace. When you're doing $1 billion buyouts, I'm sure that's exactly how they would do it. Very different for us in the lower middle marketplace because we just don't have we wouldn't necessarily have the resources. Now, at the last thing that everybody talks about is multiple expansion, right? So you bought this thing for 10 times revenue, and the public markets are now saying, most of these companies are valued at 15 times revenue, right? So you didn't do anything. You didn't fix anything. you literally did nothing. And the market changed and you're like, oh yeah, we're smart. Now maybe if you knew that multiple was going to expanding, but this is classic time where what a public multiple is going to do, we have no idea, right? So maybe you're going back to EBITDA multiples, the funny part is, yes, everything's always can be calculated on EBITDA or revenue multiple, right? Like it's just math, but are you mostly bought for EBITDA profitability or you're bought for growth? I think that's what's going to bite people right now is I don't know that we can make money right now on multiple expansion. You certainly can't count on it. You should never count on it, right? So we just have to be growing revenues and being efficient. And those are the things, I'm from Boston originally, right? So Wade Boggs, baseball player, he hit nothing but singles, right? But that's perfect. Like he was always on base. Like we got to hit a lot of singles. Like right now, we got to hit a lot of singles to do the things we need to do. I don't have a bag of tricks where it's like, here's my value creation plan and you're worth 10 times what you're worth. We don't. It's a grind it out. Like there are no magic bullets here. It's a grind it out, and you just got to be willing to grind it out. If you get crazy multiple expansion, I have some friends in the PE business that bought AF filtration companies before the COVID. They did amazing, amazing. Like, good for you. We don't buy hardware, but I wouldn't have seen that that's a market. And when you talk to them, they're like, yeah, we didn't really see it either, but wow, how lucky that was, right? Sometimes you're going to get lucky, but I think right now you got to be playing for grinding it out. Don't count on big multiple expansions in 2026. Nobody's incented to do a deal right now, unless you're just this asset that somebody has to have,
And when you're looking at companies to buy and the portfolio as a whole, you're looking for ideally software businesses that are as diversified as possible from one another, or do you kind of like go, okay, this is our niche, because we know this, we're going to buy in that sector? Is that a different play, or
Yeah, it can be. Most of the time, if you're doing something like that, you're doing some sort of a roll up, right? So you buy like one, and then you roll in, and when you roll in, what are you rolling in? You buying customers? Are you buying other technology? There's lots of reasons why you can do that. We do a large presentation to our portfolio companies around the Ansoff matrix, which is basically it's a 2x2 of, are you trying to sell more stuff to the same customers, or you're trying to sell new stuff to new customers? Like, because the plays are different in those things. So we are hyper focused on that play, so that we know exactly what's happening on the ground with the portfolio companies on these issues, because that is the trick in the short term for us.
And since all of this SaaSpocalypse drama started, have you changed at all how you investing in the new companies?
No, I think so SaaS is not the so for every PE firm says all deal flow is proprietary, right? So let's just first agree that that's not true, right? So hopefully you have a thesis, or a hypothesis, right? So we tend to not, like, if some deal book comes over the transom in an industry we don't know, it'd be hard for us any private equity firm to do it, because it's like, I don't know the industry, I don't know the historical multiples, I don't know how efficiency. Hopefully, as a private equity firm, that's why it's great to be in the lower middle market, because I can have a niche, smaller founder-owned software companies, and there are a ton of those businesses out there, right? If I'm a KKR, there aren't too many billion-dollar businesses I can buy, right? So it becomes more complex at the high end of the market. It's so much easier at the low end. So hopefully you have a hypothesis. So for us, I wouldn't want to be at our size. I wouldn't want to be buying a bunch of companies in one industry, right? Because, like, let's say the restaurant business or something, like, woo, we do have to be careful about what our end customer concentration is, not just our customers, because that can really affect the market if you're not careful, right? For us, I think that becomes the part of the real puzzle is, are we hunting in industries we know? There's always portfolio management. So if you feel like, we got some, we took a little bit of risk on these early ones. We got some rewrites going on. Maybe we should pick something that's more cash flow. So you're always doing portfolio management, right? Just to make sure that you're managing your risk profile the same. But I think if you're hoping that a deal comes over the transom, or you're going to use AI to find some great company that doesn't exist, that the AI engine it's not, right? That's not going to be the case. I think we believe that smaller focused funds are the way we want to do it. And it's just one way to do it. There are plenty of ways to make money in all these businesses. But one, for us, we like this market. And two, it's emotionally satisfying to give founders a lifetime exit. You're giving some founder $50 million. That's life-changing money for their family. And money they couldn't get anywhere else. They can't go public. No tech company's going to buy them for them. They're all sort of startup stuff. Some large conglomerate has trouble buying them because they would just kill the patient, right? And most of the time they don't want to sell it to the large guy because that's the guy they were competing with for years. Like, they don't want to sell it to him right now. Once they've sold to us and 4 years go by and they're on their boat, they don't care who we sell to at that point, right? But in the beginning they do, right? So it's a different model when you're in niches. Now, plenty of people focus on just the niches, and some of these niches are big. We don't do healthcare, but isn't that we wouldn't do healthcare? It's not an area of focus for us, but there are some funds that do nothing but healthcare software companies. That's a really big universe. It's a niche, but it's a huge niche. So you can go crazy. If you look at us, most of our portfolio companies are, you make the face like the RCA dog face, like, wow, the company does that? That's interesting. There's a lot of these small businesses you just never even heard of, so for us, it becomes a natural way to be not concentrated, because they're kind of all over the map in terms of what they do, right? I mean, you look at our portfolio, I'd say we've got everybody from, aircraft maintenance software companies to video editing technology to, auction software, you name it. We're kind of in all the buckets. Which means I change hats. Like, wait, are you the guys that have the auctions, or you?
That's good. It keeps it interesting. Do you think everyone's become an AI guru overnight?
Do I think that people think they have? 100%, right? Yeah. Like you get sold. Like we get. So first of all, this is. Let me get you to sort of public tip for people, right? If your name is Bob Jones and you got laid off and now you want to be a consultant in AI, don't name the company Bob Jones Incorporated, Bob or Jones Consulting, Bob Jones. Just like call it something else, Stargazer, whatever. Make it look bigger, right? This is right in the sweet spot of when mobile development became key, right? Everybody was looking for mobile developers, and everybody, they taught themselves mobile the week before they were selling it to you. So is everybody acting like an AI group? They are. Are they an AI group? No. Most of them are not. And this thing is changing so rapidly that we had these changes too. People forget like the different versions of browsers, the different mobile operating systems. We made a lot of mistakes in that thing too, right? People forget that because it's kind of consolidated down to a winner's platform. That's why we're in the, like, I am hands-on in code bases. My partner Paul is hands-on in sales and marketing. Why? Because I can't provide advice and counsel on something I don't know how to do. Right? This is new. So we're doing it ourselves, like literally banging away on stuff. So I think that's really important in the AI world, is you need to touch it. This is for better or for worse, this is radically changed the software business, which is always awesome. Like, it's so fun when an industry gets disrupted. Like, it's way more fun, It is, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's way more interesting.
Yeah, it's true. What's your take on, say, you're using SaaS software at the minute, and your kind of output is pretty much guaranteed, like 99.9% of what it is you're looking for. AI and its hallucinations is quite a different result, right? It's probably, say, 80% success. So it's like, say you had a company using that and you wanted to order something through the post, there's a 20% chance that might not end up at the address you ordered it to be delivered at. How do you kind of manage that when looking to build that into technology?
So you first thing you have to figure out is, all right, where are these AI LLMs and we should even step back for a second, that AI is much bigger than the current little bubble we're in. We're in the LLM bubble. LLM is a kind of AI, just like even the image generation technology isn't technically an LLM. It's a different model. It's dispersion models for the most part. So there is no like AI. The LLMs made it really interesting in the short term. And I think they did because it was the first time that you could communicate truly in English with a piece of software, right? We've tried that for years. We never had the processing power, but now it's really good. Like it can really interact with you. That changes interfaces, that changes. But it doesn't change the fact that in any given business process, does it have to be deterministic? And if it does, then you have to have guardrails around the AI, right? Like throwing AI in for any, just to throw it in, probably useless, right? It's really useful for any company that's got a lot of data, because that proprietary data is super useful, right? And putting AI against that, I mean, if I think right now what industry gets disrupted the most, it's analytics, business intelligence, because you can sort of use AI for that stuff. And I know the hallucination. We have we did a 2-part episode on hallucinations, and we have a demo of temperature. I can force an LM to create wrong decisions. So that starts to become the, once you can force them to make wrong decisions, that gives you the tools to force them not to make decisions when they're not 100%. And you can use an LM to fight LM. So I generally develop in Claude Cursor because I talk to my, so it literally, rather than writing a big spec, I interact with it. But when I'm done and I got a working prototype, I hand the whole thing over to Cursor for a rewrite. Because Cursor's not friendly. I'm joking, but it doesn't have the personality of what's the old Stephen Wright joke? He named his dog Stay to confuse him. Come here, Stay. Come here, Stay. And he says, but as a dog, he ignores me and keeps on typing. He's an East German Shepherd, very, very disciplined. I mean, that's how some of these models are, very, very disciplined, right? In terms of how they approach it. So I think that this is the change. You've got to change your organization. You've got to understand how you want to develop software. And is it possible to take an outcome that was deterministic and manage it in a non-deterministic way to get a better answer for customers, right? And I think the answer is good. We see lots of places where lots of text analysis or raw data analysis is done. And I think that's still going to be gold for these portfolio companies. If you have a lot of proprietary data, man, wow, you can just do so much with that data across your customers. Like, the one thing about SaaS hosted, moving, so all the data is on our software companies' servers, with the right contracts in place where you can analyze that data and anonymize it, you get incredible insights for a whole industry, right? Because you can say, this is what you're doing, this is what your customers are doing, and I'm not going to tell you who the customer is, and I'm not going to, but they're doing things that are making them grow faster, right? We can help you do those things. Like, there's so much analysis that can still be done with AI that doesn't require a deterministic outcome, but they're going to be knuckleheads who, I mean, you've seen stories already. They deleted production databases and stuff. Like, you can't, they want to be helpful. So you gotta give them guardrails, right? Because they totally want to do something. Like, they don't want to say, I don't know what to do here. They're like, I'll do it.
Do you think
if you work with them a lot, you'll find you have to literally say, do not do anything.
Yes.
Just answer the question. Like, don't help me. Like, just give it a shot, right?
Stay.
My wife will say, who are you talking to? And I'm like, Claude.
Well, I was going to ask, I've seen that term coming up, services as a software. Is that something you could foresee a bit of a change or an additional part of the sector coming out?
Well, so we're not service adverse by any stretch of the imagination in our companies. Like, sometimes you need service, especially in new industries, because people know how to use the tools that they have, right? So I think that we don't shy away like some people, and I think we will need it in terms of plugging in what we do in AI and our products into whatever else is in that organization, right? Because we are not the only system of record in any portfolio company we go into. I don't care if you're some giant company that uses all Oracle, you probably have something else somewhere. You have more than one, you have a silo, at least one silo somewhere, right? So there's no such thing as, one, you've got just one known set of products. So you've got a whole mess of products in there. So I think this is going to be one of the biggest the biggest things we have to deal with on a growth basis here, because we need to find out, do we need to provide the services because the customer doesn't know what to do? Are those services available? So if I'm trying to train on AI plus the stuff that's unique to my product, there isn't anybody. I can't go hire a consultant to do that because they don't know my product or they may not know. So our teams have to get up to speed, and then they have to figure out how to get the customers up to speed. And meanwhile, the customers are doing their own stuff too. So, we're a Basecamp shop here in as a project management platform. It's just easy. We like that. And 37 Signals, the guys who started Basecamp are from Chicago, so it's kind of like a Chicago thing, the Chicago way.
Keep it local.
But Basecamp they've released an MCP server that plugs into Basecamp, so I can have Claude update tickets in Basecamp. I mean, that's going to be where every software vendor is going to have their own connectivity that we can connect to, and MCP's been great. It's an open protocol, so it makes it a little bit easier. But we're still in the first inning of this whole thing, which is amazing. In my opinion, it's amazing that lots of stuff is going to happen. I think you're going to find some stories where, non-deterministic outcomes bite people. But there is a risk issue that okay, what's the worst thing that can happen if it does, right? If I'm using it to help critique something I wrote, what is the downside? There is none, right? It's not, it made me hate the piece I wrote. It may be wrong and whatever, but I think we're learning how to control hallucinations, right? Yeah. Number one, although we can still make it, which is kind of funny. And having the guardrails around it can protect you from, as long as it doesn't have full authority to make a decision and do it, where their outcomes could be dangerous, then you're safe, right? But we'll make mistakes too. I made mistakes on my own little network. You do something, hey, you can, sure, Claude, you can do that. It's oh, that wasn't what I wanted it to do. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, remember those vacation photos, those priceless vacation photos, sweetheart? Whoops.
All gone. New memories.
Merged into one. A new Ferrari.
At that point, I just go in the backyard and commit ritual suicide. She will allow me the dignity of killing myself. So.
Jim, I'm aware that we coming with the time to an end of conversation, although it's really, really interesting, and I wish we could talk for another 3 hours. I wanted to ask you, what are you the most excited in the next 12 months?
From the industry or just our portfolio or specifically?
Well, both.
Okay. I don't know why. Nobody ever says no to the second half of any question like that. I don't know why I answered it that way. Right? We'll roll backwards. So this is the most exciting. 26 is unbelievably exciting, right? Because the political climate's a mess. The voting thing's a mess. The economy's a mess. AI is going crazy. This is this is such a great time to be in software. It's chaos is awesome. It's so interesting that we're breaking apart. And the funny part about this is we keep saying, outsiders keep saying, all right, this is the last industry disruption we're ever going to have in software. We're done. No, I don't know what the next one is, but there's going to be one. We didn't know what the next one was after mobile, right? Unfortunately, it turned out to be NFTs and Bitcoin, which we make mistakes too. Whoops, our bad. I never liked either one of those things, but that's one. Two, when you think about what AI engines provide to lower middle market software companies, we can punch way above our weight. That I think people are going to start to look at legacy tech. Is it possible to upgrade it easier? Is it, now at the same time, our teams have to rethink how they develop software. But again, I love chaos. We should love chaos as an industry because good things come out of it for the most part. And that's where we are. I'm super excited for 2026. So
love that.
I've only had one cup of coffee and I'm this wired at 5 o'clock in the morning. That should tell you something.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned, just wanted to kind of cover a little bit, if somebody who's listening us today or watching, if they wanted to sort of reach out to work with you, maybe they're thinking about, finding a nice PE that they want to collaborate with, they want to be partners with. You mentioned that you're looking for specific types of partners and specific types of companies. Could you kind of cover a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we buy founder-owned software businesses, profitable founder-owned software businesses, sub 20 million in revenue. That's kind of our shtick. So, relatively small engineering teams. Typically, the founder is retiring, and he or she is either found they've got a second in command that's going to run the business, and that would be part of our diligence, is to diligence that person for running it. Or they'll say, hey, I don't have anybody, so if you're going to bid on the business, you're going to have to bring your own CEO to this business, right? That's kind of our focus. I will tell you this: we'll talk to anybody, right? Like, we talk to everybody. Like, the best thing about software is just, it's a great little world. Like, have a conversation, whether it can be an outcome or not. I mean, we've met founders 5 years before they were ready to sell. Like, this is not, like, we like what we do at our end of the marketplace. We don't need to be masters of the universe, right? Because we're super excited about it. And again, that's not an insult to the masters of the universe either. You sort of find the place where you're comfortable. I like getting my hands in all the code, and you can't do that. If you're buying billion-dollar companies, they're not even going to let you in the building. Never mind. So for us, I mean, we're at ParkerGale. We have the PE Fundcast. We will talk to anybody. Like, this is because we love the industry. So it's so fun to meet new people and talk. So we are committed to being out there. Again, that's why we started our podcast in the first place. Is private equity is so opaque. Like, this is mystery business. It's not a mystery business. It's not that hard. It really isn't that hard.
And you also have a new podcast coming up soon as well, right? Is it like tech podcast after 9 after dark?
Yeah, we split. So our main show is the Fundcast on Wednesdays, and then we have a Friday Tech Cast, which is a little more hands-on. So that's more demo stuff. I generally host that one. We have some CTOs on that interview session on that as well, and then ultimately, I think we'll, as all PE firms, all this stuff has to go through compliance, for obvious reasons, right? But anything you post on your own account. So we may end up with a couple of us with an after dark show where it's just our own person that feeds up into it. So we can do really crazy stuff on some of the some stuff you want to show that's like, oh, okay, we may not want to do that, right? But especially following along, like, not everyone wants to see the demo stuff. My job on the Tech Cast is really just to translate technology stuff to the board, to PE firms, to management teams, right? So we try and we're in the middle of what we call our AI splaining series. So what is an LLM? What is a RAG server? What is MCP? Just so people know at a high level what we're dealing with in tech. So
great.
So that's how we start.
I'm looking forward to the one after dark. That sounds like my kind of podcast to listen to.
Yeah. They'll let me loose. Put it that way.
Perfect. Anyways, Jim, so it was such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. We are going to put, if you don't mind, links to your ParkerGale in the description and the post that we're going to be sharing. You've been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us.
It was my pleasure. Feel free to call on me if you need to call on me. So.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Jim. Great chatting to you.
And thanks everyone who is listening now, and see you on the next show.